Greetings and salutations, fellow humans. Welcome to this auspicious day. This is the day when all of the media outlets report that the average corporate CEO has now made more than the average worker. This, of course, is a strategy by the capitalist class because they want to deflect all of this ire towards the CEOs, to their managerial class, instead of towards the capitalist class where it squarely belongs. Because the capitalist class has made as much as the average worker in the first hour of the new year. And this, of course, leads me to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, which is it is extremely dangerous to have a single billionaire in your society. The trickle-down economic argument was always, it's okay to give unseen and untold wealth to a small cabal of billionaires because they will reinvest the money into their society, thereby improving it. This, of course, is a complete and total grift, a total lie. What the billionaire class actually does, and this is observable. This is just facts. It's not a debate. What they actually do is they take the money that they're supposed to be investing in their society and they throw it into offshore accounts, so that the billionaire class can have an argument about which billionaire wins the game of being a billionaire. It's just one gigantic pissing match. And of course, while they are jamming as much money as they possibly can into offshore accounts, they're cutting benefits for people, they're cutting wages for people, they're laying people off, finding ways to make their society actively worse. And because every decision needs to go through the sociopathic mind of a billionaire, the society cannot improve itself, right? This is why it's extremely dangerous to have a single billionaire in your midst, because then you are answering to a billionaire who are usually illiterate, childish. They don't work, they don't know anything. Like Jeff Bezos doesn't know anything. He's completely illiterate. He's a very stupid person, in fact. Just listen to him speak. Like, he's been well coached, certainly, and he's given a lot of rope and a lot of time to speak his mind and say whatever he wants, but he's fundamentally just a stupid idiot who doesn't know anything. You just listen to him talk. So but the danger of having a billionaire is that the society is forced to restructure itself for the whims of the billionaire class. The billionaires are allowed to do what they want because they have the economic might to be able to do it. I mean, all you have to do is think about this for a very short period of time. Like, if you have $1 billion, you can set aside $1 million, right? Which is like 0.1% of your earnings. Like, if you earned $1 billion, you can set aside like $0.1 billion or $0.1 million or 0.1% of your fortune, which is $1 million, and hire at the cost of $100,000 a year 10 lawyers, right? And have them just manage your affairs. Have them manage your legal suits. And there are real life examples of billionaires and corporations just burying people under money. Let me give you an example that is a bit flighty, a bit involved in like the toy business, which is my business, so I'm allowed to talk about it. Barbie, right? Owned by Mattel, right? A massive corporation, right? Has way more money than a single entity should have, but here we are. Barbie owns the market share in the doll market since the 1950s onward, right? Like, Barbie is a force, a tour de force. Up until extremely recently, this was true. Barbie really faced her first competition in the 90s when Bratz came out, right? Because even in the 90s, Barbie was starting to look like a a conservative Republican, right? Like her blonde hair look, like all that kind of stuff. You turn on Fox News, you're going to see a bunch of Barbies. And kids don't want to play with that. They're not interested. That's why Barbie's losing now, because other toys are starting to take her place. Because that's how it works. That's how the culture works, rather. And anyway, and Mattel is owned by a bunch of old men who don't actually understand anything about kids these days, and so they are starting to fail because they're not actually interested in business. They're interested in just maintaining their stupid ideological positioning. Anyway, so in the 90s, another doll shows up, Bratz. This is the first time that Barbie is actually faced with any true competition in the market. And Bratz begins to win, because Barbie is essentially an irrelevant person, or an irrelevant figure at this time to most kids. And Barbie starts to lose, right? And so what does Mattel do? Well, Mattel realizes that the person who created Bratz and who has put it on the market worked for Mattel for a year in the accounting department. And the way that it works, Mattel has the same sort of agreement that Disney has, which is if you have any ideas while you are working at Mattel, those ideas belong to Mattel. And so even though this fellow works for a year, like literally 5 years before the launch of Bratz, they launch a legal battle against him. It's baseless. It's not based on anything. But Mattel has the has the economic might to be able to draw this out, right? And even though the lawsuit goes Bratz's direction, Bratz wins the lawsuit, right? Bratz goes bankrupt. The legal battle defeated them, the cost of it. And Mattel carries on, and Barbie continues to seize the market share, illegitimately, because she's an irrelevant cultural figure now. And so here's an example of why it is dangerous to have billionaires in your society, because they can illegitimately destroy you unjustly. Even though they know they are wrong, they are obviously wrong. They have the economic might to be able to simply crush you through the force of their economic power. There's no recourse to that. Like the guy that owns Bratz, like he can't launch a countersuit. He doesn't have the economic power to be able to do that. So that's kind of a flighty example, a flighty business example. Let's give you another real-world example. I like using real-world examples because conservatives and capitalists can't give real-world examples. That's why they give sports analogies and stupid things like this. And when they do attempt to give real-world examples, it completely undercuts themselves. Like when they say, but Bill Gates. It's like, literally Bill Gates took 100 years of government-funded research, put it in a box and privatized it by bribing a bunch of politicians. And you're telling me that capitalism had anything to do with that? Interesting. So, here's another real-world example. The billionaire class obviously wants a gigantic pedophile ring to exist. That's the Jeffrey Epstein case, right? You've got figures like Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, right? Billionaires tied to the Epstein family fortune, or the Epstein name, right? Epstein's little black book, who obviously want there to be a bunch of young girls they can rape, right? That's obviously what they want. And so they find somebody who's willing to provide that service to them, and that's Jeffrey Epstein. So when Jeffrey Epstein is captured by the FBI the first time, they are able to use their superior economic might in order to bribe political officials in order to give Jeffrey Epstein a real slap on the wrist. I think he got like 2 years for raping and selling and trafficking underage teenagers and underage girls to the billionaire class. He got 2 years, right? And they were able to do that because of their superior economic might, right? And again, like, if you're a billionaire, right, if you have $1 billion, $1 million is nothing to you. It's absolutely nothing. Spending $1 million, like, what would you do for $1 million? Like, really think about it. Ask yourself, be genuine. What would you do if somebody walked up to you and said, hey, I have $1 million, for you, right? What would you do for it? You'd do a lot of things, I wager. Especially if you knew you were just going to completely get away with it, right? Like, especially if you knew that. So Jeffrey Epstein gets captured the second time. Now, this second time, the FBI really wants to nail him, and they want names from him, right? They're not interested in giving him some sweetheart deal where he gets 2 years. This is the second time he's been captured for raping young girls and for selling them into sex traffic on behalf of the billionaire class. And so the billionaires just assassinate him, right? They've bribed the warden of this prison. They've obviously bribed some prison guards. They've obviously bribed or paid off an assassin to murder Jeffrey Epstein in his own prison cell. Like, it's obvious that that's what happened. And they can do that because they have this unbelievable superior economic might. Like, if people were capped at $1 million, like if a person could only make $1 million, they would never, ever, ever be able to afford to bribe a warden, a guard, pay an assassin. Like, that would just never happen. It's not possible, simply based on the numbers itself. But once you have $1 billion, like, what? Like, you could spend, if you earned $1 billion that year, you could spend $100 million to essentially create a heist to assassinate Jeffrey Epstein. There's a movie worth watching. Let's do a heist movie where we follow a billionaire as he heists a prison to assassinate Jeffrey Epstein, right? So that they can get off, so that they won't be captured from engaging in this pedophile rape sex ring that they're all involved in, obviously. And this is just right in front of our eyes. Like, it's right in front of our eyes. That's why people are saying, like, Epstein didn't kill himself, right? That's a slogan that comes out of the working class to point out to the wider culture that we are well aware that you assassinated Jeffrey Epstein in order to cover your pedophile sex ring. Like, it's very obvious that that's what's happened. And if you're a billionaire, you can not only afford to set up and maintain a pedophile sex ring, right? Kidnapping and raping young girls. You can afford to assassinate people who get captured and might out you, right? Like Jeffrey Epstein. And you can do it in federal penitentiaries, right? You can get people where they are literally in total lockdown. You can get people where no one should be gotten, right? These people were under prison guard. These people, this Jeffrey Epstein was like in a place that you would think no person should be assassinated, and yet he was, right? And what's happened to that? Who's been arrested? Who's actually been captured? Who's actually gone to trial? Where's the criminal prosecution for any of this? Oh, nowhere. Why? Because billionaires can throw, like, if you have $1 billion, you can spend $10 million, right? Like, what's 10%? What's 10% of $1 billion? That's $100 million, right? That means that you can have like thousands of people literally at your disposal if you're willing to spend like, what would you do for $100,000 a year annually, right? Would you maintain a system? Would you maintain this kind of system? I think lots of people would. You can literally set up institutions. You can literally buy universities. You can literally buy newspapers. And they have, like the Koch brothers. Here's another great real world example. The Koch brothers spent millions and millions of dollars trying to convince everybody that climate change was fake, to great success. And they should be hung for it, obviously. They won't be, because they can buy everybody off, right? And this is why we should never have a billionaire. Billionaires are dangerous to have in your society. Anyway, this is the end. This is the end of me, guys. Like, we should get rid of the billionaire class. We should cap earnings at $1 million. Oh, no, that'll mean that the businesses leave. Good, go. Go. Please go. Create that vacuum so that the rest of us can fill it and create a just society that is based on community instead of your sociopathic whims. Please, please banish yourselves. I look forward to the day. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, send it around, do all the things, hit all the bells, hit all the whistles. I have a Patreon now. Give me money. All right, guys. I love you all. Good luck. Well, we're going to need it.